Hey everybody, Michael Snyder. El Nino weather watch. Today is December 11th, and right now we're going to take a look at El Nino, the most recent conditions. It's been updated here as of December 11th, and we'll dive into a few things here, and I'll show you some fun weather models towards the end of the video here as well, and we'll talk about what El Nino is doing and what's to come as we go on into next year. Also, if you look here, you can see January 2023, we're in La Nina conditions. That's why the blues were there, and as we got through February, March, springtime, summer here, and you see we've got now the very warm water across the equatorial Pacific as of December 2023. And this is between 5 north and 5 south latitude right there along the equator. So that's the coast of South America here, and 180 would be the date line. If we take a look at what the current conditions are, we're at 2.0 right now. It's right on the threshold of becoming a super El Nino, but we call it strong right now because you have to maintain that for 3 running months. But we have warmed up quite dramatically from where we were at the beginning of the year when we were in the La Nina conditions there. And that Nino 3.4 is here. And you can see the Hawaiian Islands, the maritime continent, Australia, South America, and Mexico would be right there. Here we're looking at the sea surface temperatures across the equatorial Pacific, and you can see it really stretch out across the ocean here. The equatorial Pacific is quite warm, classic El Nino signature. And if we look here, this is subsurface temperature anomaly. You see the very warm water at depth there across the central Pacific Ocean here, extending towards South America. And it looks like that's probably associated with the Kelvin wave activity, is where this warmer water will move from the Western Pacific towards the Eastern Pacific here. And you can kind of see that increasing at depth. A lot of warm water underneath the surface out there, kind of showing that we definitely are going to be dealing with the strong El Nino for the next few months. We'll also take a look at what's coming in the future as we go on into next year here in a few slides, so stick with me for that. And this is looking at these Kelvin waves. You can see they alternate between these cold and warm, kind of these in-between sections here, kind of a bit of a relaxed portion of the Kelvin wave here, or kind of, you can see the warmer portions of the Kelvin waves come across here. And the most recent one now is probably what's contributing to that warm water at depth there across the equatorial Pacific, and probably continuing to strengthen our El Nino, or keep it at least in the strong region here as we go through the next couple of months. And this is looking all the way back from 1950. You can see La Nina conditions there, and you can see these El Ninos bump up, and the La Ninas and triple dip La Ninas and strong El Ninos and super El Ninos out there. And you can see the one we're currently going through now as we've climbed out of this triple dip La Nina here and back into the El Nino conditions. Where will we be this time next year? It's a good question. We'll take a look at what the weather models have to say on that here in a moment. But now looking at El Nino, you can see as we go on into the early portion of next year, we're almost certainly going to be in El Nino conditions. But look, as we get to April, May, June, July, and August here, La Nina starts to come back into the picture a bit here, and neutral conditions really start to ramp up and become a favored probability as we go on in through the summer months coming up here. Now taking a look at model predictions on into next year, look at this. We might start dropping below there. So neutral would be from 0.5 to negative 0.5 right here. But it looks like we might start even driving down towards a La Nina next year. And you can see it here. Look at the very warm tongue here as we go through December, January, February. Here's February, March, April, and you can kind of see that upwelling here across the coast of South America for maybe La Nina conditions as we go on in through next summer, starting to emerge across the Pacific Ocean yet again here. So maybe we'll go right back into La Nina. We'll see how that works. Plenty of time to worry about that. But something else that comes into play is what's known as the Madden Julian oscillation. And there is there's a pretty good signal for this over some of the maritime continent right now. And you can kind of see it here. And this would be way off again towards the maritime continent, maybe even including some of the Indian Ocean there. And this is likely a La Nina signature here for outgoing long wave radiation, kind of reduced here. We've got increased convection across some of the Pacific Ocean, including the date line there. But the Madden Julian oscillation moves from the maritime continent back into the Western Pacific, and is probably going to merge with El Nino and probably going to help out that storm track move across the Pacific Ocean in towards North America, which we're going to look at in some of the weather models here in a moment. And if you look here, you can kind of see the progress of the Madden Julian oscillation from November 1st. You can see when it's inside the circle, it's deemed fairly weak and tough to identify, but it was inside the circle here. It kind of moved out here, Western Hemisphere and Africa. Indian Ocean starts to move over the maritime continent. Now you can see it's going to try to emerge out over the Western Pacific here, but it's probably going to weaken as it does so, because it's going to kind of get muted by the El Nino signature as well. And this is the forecast where you can see it kind of staying inside that inner circle there. So it's really not going to be very easy to pick up exactly where the Madden Julian oscillation is, but it's probably going to work in tandem with El Nino. And this is looking at the phases. You got phase 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you're going to see this area of increased convection move across the maritime continent and out over the Western Pacific, kind of the typical progress of the Madden Julian oscillation. And I dug up some numbers. You might have seen them on my Twitter feed here. So from 1950 to current, the only snow during a strong El Nino for Seattle was in December 65, December 72, January 73, and January 1998. So since 1980, we've only had 1 day of snowfall during a strong El Nino for Seattle. So it is quite rare. If we do get snowfall in one of these months coming up, it's going to be an extremely rare feat. I mean, we're talking about 73 years now with only 4 months with actual measurable snowfall. And this is looking at the temperature. Another dramatic picture unfolding here is March averages around 50 degrees for a strong El Nino. And look at La Nina during March. An incredible almost 5 degrees difference in February, equally stark a difference here as well, as we're 5 degrees warmer during February during strong El Ninos than we are during the La Nina conditions. So huge difference in the early or the late winter and the early springtime coming up here. And this is rainfall. It's crazy because strong El Ninos are actually even wetter than La Nina Novembers. Who would have thought here? It is kind of a small sample size with only 5 strong El Nino Januaries going back towards 1979 to current conditions now. But that is a pretty strong signal there. And actually February, even in March, also show up a little bit wetter than La Nina. Interesting stuff there. And here again is the snow from 1980. This 3 inches here that fell from 1980 to 2023 during a strong El Nino was all in 1 day here, as you can see. So it would be quite a rare feat to get snow this season coming up. But I'm a snow lover here, so I'll never say die. I'll never call it quits. I'm always going to hope for snow. But now looking at the 18Z GFS, let's go ahead and take a look at the 200 meter millibar wind heights here. And this is about 39,000 feet. And you may have seen me play this before, and people are mentioning this jet extension. It's going to extend all the way across the Pacific Ocean. And I'll show you a couple other ways to look at that here starting now. But as we go on into the upcoming days, you're going to see a storm system off the coast of California here. It's going to try to eject up towards the Pacific Northwest, probably weakening as it does so. Another trough setting up off the coastline here. And then you can really see that jet extension rip across the Pacific Ocean here and just point itself right towards the west coast of North America. So it's going to start to increase probably the storm activity here along the west coast, possibly favoring California, but this could end up targeting the Pacific Northwest all the same. Now, look at this. There's probability of mean sea level pressure less than 1,005 millibars. So it kind of shows you where low pressure systems are setting up. And in the meantime, the Gulf of Alaska kind of going here a bit. Then we drop off this low that's probably going to affect some California and maybe bring some precipitation to the Pacific Northwest. We're going to drop another storm down towards the west coast here, possibly impacting California. And then you can see the Aleutian low and the Gulf of Alaska low really get cranking towards the end of the run here. So this is what's going to start to throw potentially some more atmospheric river potential, maybe some wind potential, but probably warmer temperatures than normal into the west coast here. So you can kind of see that machine churning here as that Aleutian low and the Gulf of Alaska low really get cranking up here with that jet extension as it moves across the Pacific Ocean towards North America. And one more way to look at it here, this is the GFS. This is actually hot off the presses. The 0Z run, 500 millibars, 18,000 feet. Then you got wind speeds in here as well. And so general trough and ridge position, but you can see the storm coming for California here as we go towards the end of the week and on into the weekend. Coming up here, it's going to be setting up shop. We'll see how that storm develops. So I'll keep going over that in my daily briefings. Another storm system sets up shop here as we go through the following week here. But then you really see the jet stream get ripping across the Pacific Ocean here. Again, that Aleutian low and Gulf of Alaska low really get cranking. And you can see some of these storm systems are going to be getting very close towards the west coast of North America. Powerful, polar lobes up here continuing to drive energy into the west coast of North America. It's basically like gears in a machine just powering this jet stream. Clockwise would be this rotation would be this way here, and of course counterclockwise here across some of the polar lobes that are be spinning that air back into the Pacific Northwest. So play that one more time, and you can see those storm systems there, and then the jet stream gets really active towards the end of the period here. And the models have been onto the solution here for the last few days with the powerful jet ripping across Pacific Ocean and bringing some of this stormy weather into the west coast here, and they have not been backing off on it. So pretty strong signal here. We just don't know which areas along the west coast are going to get the best of these storms here and exactly how they're going to unfold. But of course, we break that down as we get closer and closer. And this is something interesting too. This is the infrared satellite imagery, and you can see the outgoing long range radiation would be less in these areas because the clouds are blocking that. So that is probably an El Nino signature there. So there are those, those hints of El Nino. And the signs of it kind of lie in things like this, where you can kind of look and see that enhanced convection, especially across some of the dateline here. Then that Madden Julian oscillation brings its enhanced convection, probably going to help out with that jet stream and bringing some subtropical moisture into some portions of the west coast here as we go on in through the end of December. So anyway, hope this is educational for you guys. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. I'll do my normal briefings tomorrow, and yeah, so I guess I'll talk to you guys then. I'll do a California and my normal Pacific Northwest one as well, and I'll post this one on the Pacific Northwest one just because I went over a lot of Seattle data there with El Nino conditions. So anyway, hope you guys are having a good night. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow, and I'll see you then.